We usually learn history through its architecture, the massive empires, rigid decrees, and family dynasties that seem to impose a perfect, immovable order. But look closer at those structures, and you'll find cracks. Institutional control is rarely as absolute as the people in power want us to believe. The historical loophole exists wherever an institution tries to cage human behavior. The moment a law is passed or a border is drawn, ambition finds a way to work around it. Subversion isn't a side effect of history, it's the engine that keeps it moving. This pattern of endurance is visible across three seemingly disconnected stories: a plant that survived centuries of state-mandated stigma, the ancient world's most lethal sporting arena, and the strategic maneuvers of two women who refused to be used as disposable royal assets. Analyzing these specific moments reveals a consistent reality. When we study how individuals and ideas slip through the gaps of authority, we see how marginalized figures actually outmaneuvered the empires that tried to contain them. In ancient Rome, the state maintained order through bread and circuses. It was a cynical political trade. The emperor provided free grain and violent entertainment to keep the population fed and distracted. If the people were cheering in the stands, they weren't plotting in the streets. This mosaic shows the centerpiece of that distraction, the chariot race. Drivers had to navigate 4 horse teams around this central spina at a full gallop. The track was designed for shipwrecks, the Roman term for crashes, where chariots shattered and drivers were frequently trampled. It was a high-speed death trap meant to keep the public's adrenaline peaking. But the state's distraction machine created a loophole for the very people it exploited. Charioteers were almost exclusively slaves, yet the most successful became the ancient world's first superstars. One driver, Gaius Epilaeus Diocles, retired with a fortune worth billions in modern currency, earning more than the senators who officially owned the system. These drivers raced for the factions, large-scale organizations identified by their colors: red, white, green, and blue. These weren't just teams, they were powerful corporations. They controlled the breeding of horses, the training of athletes, and eventually the political loyalties of the masses. The loyalty of these fans could ignite the city in an instant. Street riots between the Greens and the Blues were common, often escalating into full-scale urban warfare that the legions struggled to contain. The mob didn't just support a color, they used the factions to voice their own political defiance against the emperor's authority. Rome's attempt to pacify the masses with spectacle created a new, uncontrollable form of power. By building a venue for public passion, the empire accidentally gave its lowest citizens a way to organize, rebel, and find dangerous ambition. Beyond physical distraction, institutions often try to maintain order through moral control. Cannabis provides a clear look at how this strategy repeatedly falls short. For thousands of years, the plant was a practical necessity, used for textiles, paper, and food, long before it was targeted as a social vice. In ancient China, medical texts like this one documented its use with clinical precision for pain and inflammation. There was no moral panic. Practitioners viewed the plant as a pharmaceutical staple, an established part of the state's medical infrastructure for centuries. The shift toward stigma came much later, when institutions like the medieval church sought to monopolize spiritual and physical relief. By branding intoxicating plants as devil's herbs, the church attempted to ban any substance that offered comfort outside of official religious sacraments, threatening midwives and herbalists with the stake. These bans fought a cultural root much deeper than their decrees. Nomadic Scythians used the plant in sacred rituals for generations, as seen on this gold artifact. These resilient traditions traveled through vast trade networks and hashish dens, ensuring the plant remained accessible even when the official law demanded its destruction. The church's prohibition ultimately failed because the loophole was internal. Even as bishops issued bans, their own monks grew the plant for parchment, and their apothecaries continued to prescribe it for pain. Stigma cannot eradicate a tool that the enforcers themselves still find useful. The most rigid cage of all was the patriarchal dynasty, where women were used as currency to secure land and titles. In the 12th and 15th centuries, a high-born woman's role was usually to be a silent link between two powerful men. Eleanor of Aquitaine subverted this by weaponizing her mandated role as a patron of culture. She sponsored courtly love, a system of etiquette and poetry that encouraged knights to pledge their loyalty directly to her. This wasn't just art, it was a way to build a personal power base that was entirely independent of her husband, King Henry II. When the time was right, Eleanor used that influence to shatter her husband's empire. She secretly directed the rebellions of her own sons, coordinating their military strikes to strip Henry of his control. She didn't have to lead an army on the field to become the most dangerous strategist in Europe. Lucrezia Borgia was born into a similar cage. As this fresco of her father, Pope Alexander VI, suggests, her life was dominated by the papacy. Her father traded her through 3 marriages to secure the Borgia family's grip on Italy, using her reputation as a pawn in his own toxic legacy. Lucrezia escaped this cycle by moving to the city of Ferrara. Within these walls, she systematically shed her family's scandalous image. By transforming herself into a highly respected diplomat and intellectual leader, she ensured her survival long after the Borgia name had fallen into ruin in Rome. Both women mastered the art of quiet endurance. This effigy of Eleanor shows her holding a book, a final statement of intellectual sovereignty. They didn't just survive the men who tried to control them, they outlived them, ensuring their own versions of history were the ones that lasted. These lives show that ultimate power doesn't always come from fighting a system. Sometimes the most effective way to win is to master the rules, find the loophole, and play the game better than the people who invented it. The institutions that tried to impose absolute order, the Roman Empire, the Angevin kings, the Borgia popes, all eventually collapsed. Their laws and dynasties are now the subjects of study, not the rulers of the present. The Circus Maximus is now a quiet field of grass and crumbling brick. It is a physical reminder that the massive structures built to distract and control a population will always eventually erode into dust. Yet the subversions remain. Cannabis has outlasted every moral crackdown to become a global industry, and the strategies of Eleanor and Lucrezia fundamentally redefined how we understand female political agency. The records of history are often kept by the institutions that built the cages, but the most interesting parts of the story are always written by the people who figured out how to slip through the bars.